Welcome to The Hidden World of Women, a podcast brought to you by Women's Health and Wellbeing Services. My name is Emma and I'll be your host for today's episode. This is part 2 of our same-sex parenting episode in the Journey into Motherhood series. So in our first part of this episode, episode 31, if you haven't listened to it, head on back, listen to episode 31 to hear Kelly and Sam talk about the difficulties that they experienced when they tried to access IVF and how that led to them becoming part of Gale and the role that they played in having to have laws changed so same-sex couples could access IVF. The episode went a lot longer than anticipated and a lot longer than the episodes for Hidden World of Women normally go for. And so rather than losing a lot of the information and a lot of the conversation that happened, I actually cut that episode in half. So at the end of episode 31, Sam and Kelly have shared all of the ups and downs, all the highs and lows, and it ended with me asking, was it worth it? To which the answer was a resounding yes. So episode 32, this episode, picks up where we've just been through all that and I've just asked Sam and Kelly whether or not it's worth it. They've just said yes and, shared how much having a child has enriched their life. And I think it ended with Kelly saying something along the lines of, just love them. And then that's where we pick it back up for this episode. In this episode, we touch on some of those issues that we spoke about in episode 31, but really this episode does meander into all sorts of different tangents as we touch on raising a non-binary child. We touch on the law reform for same-sex marriage in Australia. We touch on what it's like to live in fear of how other people are going to react all the time. We just go into so many different places. So it is a bit of a roller coaster episode. I hope you enjoy it and I hope that you learn something. I know I certainly had my eyes opened in a number of different parts of this conversation. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so 100%, so worth it, a million times over. Would absolutely do it again in a heartbeat.
We tried for a second.
We did.
Yeah.
And
it
Sam,
didn't happen.
No, you did fall pregnant, but again you miscarried.
Yeah. So we decided that if we were ever going to leave something for Alex in our will, we better just
stop at that point. So
did you have to wait a certain amount of time after Alex was born before you could?
We actually decided to wait until they were about two. I think. Yeah. I don't think we were.
So you were about 42, and you did fall pregnant, but just lost it. So and we just went, you know what? That's one is perfect.
Yeah, that's it. And as it turns out, they are.
And then when Alex was about 4, we decided that because we couldn't have children ourselves, more children, that we felt it was important that Alex learnt how to share and how to be a sibling and how to be caring to other children. And so we went into foster care at that point. And we were assessed through all of that process, which was extensive assessment. And we were approved as foster. We went and did all the training. We were approved. And we were placed, we did respite foster care because we did work at the time. Yeah. So we fostered two boy twins, yeah.
And then twin girls.
And then twin girls. So the boys.
It doesn't get much easier than twins.
No, that's right.
No. So the boy twins came to us at about 11 months and stayed with us till they were about 3.
That's probably the easiest stage, I think, to have twin boys.
They just had started to be active and
destructive. They were active. Yeah. And then we also had the twin girls who were 2, and they came to us for respite as well on weekends. And then we also had a little 8-week-old Aboriginal baby, Indigenous baby, who came to us as well. His mum was just absolutely beautiful. She was gorgeous, and she was trying to get into a job and all that kind of thing. So she was finding it hard to find care. Yeah. So, and there was one weekend where we had all 5 children plus our own.
That was fun.
How many dogs did you have at the time? How mad was the circus?
It was crazy, but it was fun. And Alex, 100% learned how to care for younger children.
Yeah.
And learned how to share their toys and be a part of something that was bigger than them.
Yeah.
You know,
It was sadly, as we transitioned into the home businesses,
Yeah.
it just didn't become practical. We would have loved to have continued, but
you can't trust other people's jobs.
No.
With children
Kids.
that are not your children.
Yeah.
You don't know how
kids
they're
are so
going to respond.
unpredictable.
Well, that's exactly it. And as you say, it's not that you think, well, I don't mind risking my child, but your child has grown up around
No,
that
exactly.
and knows
Right.
how to.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
And it's one thing to have eyes constantly on one child,
But five?
5 or 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, around other people's dogs was just too risky.
Too risky,
Yeah.
so we transitioned out of human foster care.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic.
It was amazing.
It was an amazing experience for all of us.
And
you know.
the actual permanent foster carers that we met were
Incredible people.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible people.
Take my hat off to
100%.
foster parents everywhere.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that was when Alex was about 4,
Yes.
and then I wrote a book.
What was the book?
Yeah. So the book it's my second. I'm a poet. I am actually a published poet, and I've got a degree in poetry and creative writing.
She got away with words. You'd never guess.
I know. She's
No.
so quiet
I know.
and shy and unassuming.
So I wrote my first book in 2002. No, before, I don't know, early. And then my second book happened after all the IVF stuff. So during that phase, I was completely inept.
Yeah.
I could not get anything on paper about any of it. Because
I
it was
actually
all
think-
too emotional.
Yeah, but also during that time, I think that you do exceptionally well just to function.
Hell yeah.
There's no space left for anything
No.
else. And if you can manage to function
Yeah.
through 8 years of that entire
Yeah.
process, you've done
I know.
exceptionally
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But, to kind of go, oh, look, I didn't have any space for writing. Yeah, I'm not sure I would have had any space for, being able to make sure I had clean clothes and food.
Yeah.
So, but after it all ended and we had Alex and we knew that we were there and it was okay and the government wasn't going to come and take her away from us
Yeah.
in any way, shape or form, then it all
We
came
did
out.
have that anxiety.
We did have that
for-
anxiety.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering with the, I wondered how that would have affected
Yeah.
people. So when the government was talking about changing that back,
Yeah.
people who had been successful during that time, what happens to them?
Yeah.
And all of the stress that would
Yeah.
have gone with that
Incredibly
as well.
stressful. Incredibly stressful. Very, very stressful. So it all came out. And I wrote my second collection, which was called Domestic Archaeology.
Ah, nice.
And it was a triptych. So
Maybe
there's...
she hasn't given you a book.
No.
I should rectify that.
Yeah.
So it's a very female-centered book, actually, as you might imagine. And so it's a triptych, and the first section is on fertility. It's basically everything to do with fertility, and infertility, more specifically.
Yeah.
And the second bit is to do with fauna and flora, but also based in infertility. So, for instance, donkeys and horses creating mules that are infertile.
Yeah.
Seahorses who carry the babies.
Yeah.
And so fertility and infertility again, but based in the animal world.
Yeah.
And then the third section is post Alex, and how we, everything that we did in terms of a family, and the extended family and all that. So it's a really lovely collection. It came out in 2012. It got fantastic reviews. And it was published by a publisher over East, who was one of my lecturers at the time.
Ah,
here,
awesome.
and he's one of Australia's best verse novelists. So wrote it all down, and then went on the poetry thing for a bit, and did the launch and all that kind of stuff, and that was great. And then had a midlife crisis, and that's where we started.
So after the midlife crisis, actually, before I come to this, you mentioned how hard it is to constantly be having to come out.
Yeah.
How hard is that? Have you had conversations with Alex around what that's been like for them growing up, having to constantly come out, around having to tell people all the time? And children are so accepting.
Yeah, they are.
So for them, they haven't known any different
No.
than just having two mums.
Yeah.
So Have they experienced anything with that?
They have not. They've only experienced good support.
Yeah.
But I think what might give them the shits a little bit is, oh, you've got 2 mums, you're so lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
She gets that. They get that a lot. Oh, you're so lucky to have 2 mums. Well, no, not really.
Well, look,
not luckier or less lucky than anybody else to have 2 parents.
And that's what I was about to say. I think any child that has 2 parents that love them the way that you love your child is exceptionally lucky. Any child that's got 2 parents that are devoted to them and that really want them to succeed and want them to be happy.
That's not dependent.
But it's got nothing to do with your gender.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. So when
it's got nothing to do with sexuality either.
No, it hasn't.
So you can have that with 2 mums, 2 dads, a mum and a stepdad, and for absolutely anything.
Absolutely.
A mum and a dad as well. Better put that in.
That's right. They're still the norm.
That is.
That's so passe.
Yeah. So being done to death last century.
I never mentioned it. But I think that might annoy them a bit. Oh, you're so lucky. Yeah, they've never actually said anything. But, if I was in their position, it would annoy me.
Yeah, totally.
But they have had no issues in terms of having 2 mums.
Yeah.
And
there's been no social exclusion or
no,
like the things that you experienced.
No, we were geared for having to go into the school.
In fact, to be honest, I think we're a bit cool. In terms of Alex's friends and how they view.
We're becoming less cool.
Yeah, we are.
That's because Alex is getting older.
That's right.
Yeah. So we were ready to advocate, and it was a constant. You talk about anxieties. That was one of my constant anxieties through the early years of school. Was when not will it happen, but when will it happen?
And it never
happened.
What was it like? I've gone off on a tangent. Sorry, there may be no.
Oh, that's so unusual.
I know. But things like going.
You can point the finger.
Takes one to know one, right? Yeah. What's it like going into mums? Did you go to mums group?
Yes.
And were you the only same-sex couple in that mums group?
Yeah, normally.
Yeah.
I think, I don't recall any negativity or anything, but there is a chance.
I'm sure they spoke about it.
Yeah. And
fair
there
enough.
is
I spoke about all the parents who were in my mums group.
But they didn't talk about it to us.
No, at some level, you reach this level where you just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
What people think about you. People have been horrible to you.
Yeah.
We've been spat on. We've been
told all you need is a good dick.
Yeah,
that kind of
all
stuff.
that sort of thing. My family had abandoned me. So you get all of that. You get to a point where if you go to mother's group and someone side glances you, you don't even notice.
Honey, you're going to need to do more than that.
Yeah. I need something a bit more obvious.
Yeah. Maybe a picket.
But no, we never had anything that we were aware of. I probably think that there probably was.
They probably did talk about us behind our back.
Or there was more than a few who went home to their husbands and said, I never believe what happened today. No, we never actually said. We actually got a lot of positive support.
We did.
And we've always been
pleasantly surprised.
Curiosity.
Yeah, but we've always been pleasantly surprised about the support we've gotten.
Yeah.
From places that you might not expect it to come from.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's true.
You sort of expect the worst and you get these amazing people that are just so supportive and so beautiful and so lovely. And you go, oh, well, the world's not actually such a bad place.
Yeah.
So we've always kind of just had that view that we're just going to live our life authentically.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible word, but
I don't think so. I think
but authentically and just be us and do us.
Yeah.
And those who like us and are with us, come on board. Those who are not, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Go find your tribe.
And there is sounding very woo-woo. It's your vibe attract your tribe.
Yeah.
So you know what, this is who I am.
Yep.
Either you're in or you're out.
Yeah,
your choice.
Exactly. But it wasn't our job to try and convince people.
Yeah.
It's not to say you don't get there's been a few times over the years where I just get, gut kicked when someone says something to me because I'm so comfortable with who I am and everything that I forget that I'm not inverted commas the norm, And I remember a few years back being at work and the male guy coming in and saying,
as in MAIL.
Yeah. The dude that delivers envelopes coming in, and there was something in the meeting. honestly can't remember what it was, but he said something along the lines, "Can't stand those faggots," you know. And oh my God, I was in such a safe environment.
You were in your bubble.
I was in my bubble that I forgot that
people feel that way.
And it was like he had sucker punched me.
Yeah.
I sort of just looked at him and walked away into my office.
Be honest, you ran away.
I didn't run away.
I'm sorry, the only time I'm running if someone's chasing me.
Yeah.
I may waddle quickly, but I'm not going to run.
And burst into tears because it just came from left field. I'd just forgotten, you know. And that still happens to this day occasionally.
You know, we had that when we went to Melbourne with Alex, and Alex was about 4, I think, again. And we were on a tram, and an old guy and an old lady got on the tram, and he looked at us, and he looked at her, and looked at Alex, and said, who's your mum? Right? To Alex. And I thought, no, you're not going to ask my 4-year-old that. And I stepped in.
It is not my 4-year-old's duty to out us.
That's right, yeah. So I said to him, actually, we're both, at the time, we're both her mums.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you can't be. A child can only have one mum.
His wife got it. His wife
got it straight
away. She was punching him on the arm going,
she was mortified. She was mortified. Shut up, Cyril. You know, she was absolutely mortified that he was going down this path. But that was the closest I've ever been to being angry with someone in public, because it involved Alex, and they were sitting right there and they were talking about them.
Did he know? Was it innocent, or was he?
No, it started off innocently.
Yeah.
But then it became a push.
Yeah.
Right, and you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to Alex. Alex and I had a conversation the other day because they are non-binary, and I was talking to them in the car about the fact that this is the path that they're taking, and as a result of that, like us, they are going to have to spend the rest of their days outing themselves, because people will assume that they're either male or female, and they will use those pronouns, which means that Alex then has to correct them and say they, them.
Yeah.
So I said, if that's the choice you're making, that's cool, but you need to know that it is a choice that you need to either come out or you need to stay invisible, and that's a choice that you'll have to make every single time you're confronted with it. But I said to Alex, but if you do, like they're at the university today, and I said, if you know, there'll be people making assumptions about your gender today, and you need to decide if you're going to correct them or you're going to let it slide, depending on how you feel. Are you going to see this person again? Is it important to you enough to correct them? And if it is, then I want you to be respectful with that correction. And they completely understand that. Yeah. And they're never ever, because we still get it wrong, as you've heard during this interview, we still get it wrong. But they are very forgiving about it. And as I have said to them, as happened with us, every interaction is a chance to educate someone. Yeah. And although it's slightly unfair that that's your responsibility to educate people, it does fall on your shoulders.
In the same way that it's really unfair that you had to change the law so that you could have a child. Yes. It is unfair. That shouldn't have had to happen. But it did fall on your shoulders. Yes. But it fell on your shoulders not just for you, but for 20 years worth of women who have come after you, and men as well.
Yes,
you know, men
absolutely.
can now access surrogates. Yeah. Gay men can access surrogates.
No, not here yet.
Can they not?
No.
I thought they could if they had a.
I think
if they had a donor surrogate.
Look, I'm not sure of the actual. Not through clinics, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
So it's altruistic, but I don't think it's through clinics. Right. But I think they're looking at trying to change that. I could be wrong with that. But
at least it sets the precedent for that, though.
It does. So, and it needs to be said as well that we didn't do this alone. You know, there were people like, you know, Damien and Graham and Rod and, you know, Sam Dowd. Like, there's so many people that actually did this and came before us even to set this ship on this path. So many people have been involved in making it happen. You know, and the last ones, of course, were the politicians that got on board and made it happen, because they're the ones that can make it happen in reality.
Standing on the shoulders of giants and standing next to them as well.
Yeah. So we went to a youth. It's a weird thing. We went to this youth GLBTI group, this younger group that has set up to now take on the next, like a lot of the stuff now is transgender. Yeah. issues that need to be addressed and fixed. And so this younger group called a community meeting and said, it'd be great if you could come. So we went along and Alex came with us, and they referred to us as the elders in the room.
Oh, how did that go?
Oh, well, it was...
I was like, are you serious?
I think they're being respectful.
Yeah.
I know exactly what we said. I know they're being respectful, but come on.
Not quite my dotage yet.
I know. But it was actually really, it was lovely.
Yeah.
It was really lovely. And then for Alex to see that
Yeah.
and hear that as well, it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
But
we're too tired to do any of that anymore.
That's it. You fought the fight for,
Yeah.
It took a lot out of you.
Yeah.
And now
you burn out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We did get involved in the law in the gay marriage stuff as well. I know that you mentioned you wanted to talk about that. So we did get involved in that, but very lightly. Very, very. There were people who were doing incredible things Australia-wide for the marriage debate, and we wrote letters, really.
Yeah,
that's essentially what we did. Or we, went to rallies. We took Alex as a baby to rallies, so that, we've got photos of them at 3 months of age at their very first marriage equality rally.
Oh. Now, how was that? How did you feel taking a baby and a child? We've gone off. We're not even on the same reservation anymore. But how did you feel? Did you feel safe doing that?
Oh, yeah, well, because they were our rallies. They were our people.
Yeah.
But what about the people who were against your people?
They were not at the rallies.
No, they never
turned up, and you weren't worried about police violence or anything like that?
Maybe once.
Our rallies were beautiful.
Yeah.
Our rallies were really nice, and the police were very civil with us, and we were very civil with them, and we always did the right thing and got approvals and permits, and did it correctly and well.
And not everyone agreed with the way we handled things when we were convening Gale. I mean, we had to talk younger activists down off the ledge who wanted to shut down the freeway and protest.
So we had to put our foot down and say,
no,
that's not how we're going to run this.
No, we need people on our side.
Yeah,
we don't want to get their backs up here.
They couldn't get grandma to hospital.
Yeah.
So not everybody agreed with the way we were doing it, but they didn't necessarily stand up and do it. So they got us.
Yeah.
Suck it up, sister.
That's it. If you can do it better, put your money where your mouth is.
That's right. Be my guest.
Yeah. Happily stand aside, but that never happened, so we persisted.
Yeah. And so you did. So marriage became legal in Australia nearly 4 years ago.
I think, wasn't it? 18, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
So 4 years in 22.
Don't ask us what our anniversary is.
No, well,
I really should know.
I know.
Do you?
Yeah.
What is it?
So our unofficial anniversary is the 3rd of January.
Oh, yeah.
9th of January.
Yeah. Is it 9th of January?
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's when we got married.
Right.
Yeah, so the 9th
That's when it came in.
Yeah, so 9th of January 2018 at midnight. It became legal for same-sex marriages, and on the steps of Parliament House, you said I do.
We did.
We thought it was a nice circle.
Circular thing.
Yeah, it came to a conclusion. Our journey for us had come to a conclusion as activists, if you will.
All the fights you wanted to fight.
Yeah, and it felt
and
it just felt like a purge of all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like to have a really good thing happen on the steps.
And the people we had that came to that were the most diverse group of people you could ever imagine.
We've made a few friends over there.
Yeah.
Which are really, we had a younger person who has, implants with horns and 50 piercings, and I looked over and they were talking to our IVF doctor, who was a very straight-laced Christian man, and
he got to meet Alex for the first time,
which was really cool.
And we've got a photo that someone took of him hugging her.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so beautiful.
It was.
And then we had a lady who had like 14 foster children.
Yeah.
And she was there with her and all her kids.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And people that I worked with and politicians were there.
Yeah.
And we had a personal note from Mark McGowan saying, I can't be there, but congratulations. Which was lovely because we had to get permission to do it, obviously.
Yeah.
And we were not allowed to bring alcohol, and we didn't have any toilets because the toilets were being fixed. So my mum and stepdad, they brought the toilets. The mother of the bride drove in with the toilet.
Oh my goodness, that's the best. That is so cool.
On the back of a trailer. Here comes the mother of the bride with the dunny.
You know the episode of A Country Practice where she rocks up to the wedding on the back of a ute in
Yes,
her wedding dress? Well, it's like that, but
it was
instead
like
it's
that.
very
But
Aussie,
one
awkward,
would expect
with the
nothing
dunny on the
less
back.
for
With the dunny on the back.
There had to be something unique about our
Yeah,
wedding.
so they went and picked the dunny up and brought it to the wedding. And then we had someone else volunteer to just bring bottles of water because that's all that we could serve. So they had set up down the back with bottles of water and people just had water. And we told everyone they could come in their pajamas if they wanted to because it was at midnight. And it was a beautiful night. It was lovely and balmy and gorgeous. And then we had someone volunteer to come and do our makeup and our hair.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Josh, a beautiful young man who was from here and was involved in Gale, a surrogate son.
Yeah.
And he was now in Queensland, but he was over here in Perth at the time. So he came to our house and did our hair. And he came. He was there as well. And it was just beautiful. You know, it was just lovely. It was very, very simple.
Everyone coming together.
Yeah, really casual.
And then I have this vision of Alex by themselves, sitting on the steps of Parliament House, just sitting waiting for it all to happen. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, it was.
Really lovely. And then I got a phone call at 2:00 in the morning and I did an interview with ABC.
I just went,
in the car. It was about 1:00 in the morning and I'm in the car doing this ABC interview after the wedding and they're asking me how it feels. And
You know that's not how most people spend their wedding.
No.
On the phone to the
there is
local
not one
media.
single thing that's traditional about us.
No, there's not.
No.
So that was the last interview I did.
Yeah, it is actually, I think. Yeah.
And then you've hung up your...
And I'm hung it up now, like someone else can do it now. That's all good.
No.
And it went viral. So when the celebrant who was Terry Healy, who's a local member of Parliament, who's also a celebrant, when he said marriage is between two people for the very first time ever, because we have been to weddings
Where we had
for
to
the last
listen.
where we had to listen to wedding is marriage is
union
between
of a
two
man
people.
and a woman to the
Yeah.
exclusion of all others.
Yeah, and so we had to listen to that for years when
Yeah.
our friends got married. And it was heartbreaking. I used to cry every time I heard it.
Yeah.
When he said that, I just squealed. I sort of went and put my hand up, screamed, my hand up in the air, and everyone cheered. And someone in the audience had it on video.
How did that suddenly go viral?
I don't know, but it went viral and it
Yeah.
went to CNN
Yeah.
and all over the world. And it was like, oh God. But thankfully it was taken so far away that you couldn't actually see us.
No, you could just hear the...
And the hand and the,
Yeah.
So that was truly the moment that I went, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And that was incredible.
But the proposal, the proposal going back was interesting because Terry offered. He said, "If you want to get married, I'll be your
Yeah.
servant." And this one turned to me and said, "So you want to get married?"
It doesn't get much more romantic.
I
know.
And I said, "I don't know. Do you want to get married?"
We've already been together a long time at that point,
Yeah.
like 24 years or something.
Yeah.
And Kelly said, "It might be nice for Alex
Yeah.
if we were married." And I said, "Oh well, okay, let's do it." So that was like 3 weeks before.
We planned it in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
essentially, or a month.
A month, yeah.
Which is the real reason it was so casual. But
But you also kept it a secret for quite a while as well.
We did.
Yeah.
Because I remember people asking you, and you going, "Oh no, we've been together for 24 years. We
Yeah.
don't, we don't need it." And then we're getting married. Hang
Yeah,
on a minute.
I know. In the end, I think we did do it for Alex.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a little bit more normality for her, for them. Their parents are married.
Yeah.
And I remember way back when we first started the discussion about, same-sex marriage, and I asked Alex as a little kid, would you like us to get married?
Yeah.
And they said, yes, because I want to be the flower girl.
Yeah.
Oh. Don't actually care if my parents
That's
are
right,
married.
but I want to be
but
the
I
flower
want a
girl.
pretty dress.
And I want to dance at your wedding, is
Oh.
what they said.
And did they dance at your wedding?
No, but they were the flower girl. They had some
Yeah.
beautiful little rainbow roses that someone had done
Oh.
especially for them. So it was really, really, really lovely,
Yeah.
and kind of the end of a whole cycle, and so worth all of it. Worth all of it.
So now you're 20 years on from where you started.
Yeah.
knowing what you know now, would you go back and do it again?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without any doubt.
Yeah.
So it was a much longer journey than you anticipated.
Yes. That's an understatement.
It was probably a little bit more complex than going to an IVF clinic and going, we want to have a baby.
Yeah,
which is where we started.
But would you do anything differently?
No.
I don't think so.
Maybe we would have tested me earlier. Perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it's worked out as it's worked out.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty perfect.
Yeah.
So if we had done something differently, would we have had a different outcome? Possibly.
That's it. If you'd done something different earlier, would you have then ended up using the anonymous
That's
donor?
it.
Anonymous donor that we would
Yeah.
never have had contact with.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I kind of think, it is a bit woo-woo, but I do think things happen for a reason. And I think this is a classic example of when you look back on something, you go, yeah, well, that happened. And if that didn't happen, then that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And, and it just sort of has a knock-on effect.
It does,
I think.
But no, I don't regret anything at all. Sometimes wish stuff hadn't happened.
Yeah.
I wish
the way we handled it, I don't regret.
I wish the vote hadn't happened.
The plebiscite.
The plebiscite, yeah. I think that's one of the most hurtful things I've ever experienced.
Well, having to stop
In the whole
your
thing.
child go and check the mail.
Yeah.
Because you know that there's going to be stuff in there that's telling them that their family is evil.
Yeah.
And that's not people who are right wing who are writing letters to you. That's the government
That's the
who
government.
are sending that to you.
Yeah.
Or the
political
government
parties.
that's putting it on, political
Yeah.
parties, sorry.
Yeah.
The political parties that are putting it on the television or on social media.
Yeah.
And,
So we basically had to have a blackout of media
Yeah.
in our house while all that was going on.
And everyone knew that the percentage of approval was over 50%, well over 50%, and there was no real need to have the plebiscite, and yet it felt like an exercise in cruelty. It just felt mean.
I was really scared. So as somebody who identifies as heterosexual, and I've been married for a really long time as well, but I was really scared. Firstly, I felt absolutely terrible at having to participate in the plebiscite. I don't think it's any of my business to have to vote on how other people live their lives. And so I actually didn't want to participate in the plebiscite.
Yeah.
But what I was really afraid of was that if other people felt like me and didn't participate, or people who, perhaps are indifferent and who were like, well, it doesn't affect me. Why should I, what's it got to do with me?
And that was scary.
Yeah. And then so you've got, Sam, you said that the people who identify as GLBTQIA+, I think I may have, I think they've just updated it to have an S, and maybe there's an S in there now.
Yeah.
And I think there's a number as well. But anyway, so, the people who identify as, so they are still the minority.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got a minority group who are potentially voting yes versus some really outspoken, really vocal right-wing groups.
Yes.
Who are well mobilised.
And who are doing a really good job at, creating fire and passion in people. And then you've got a big section of the population who are indifferent.
Not because they don't care, just because they're indifferent. It doesn't affect them. They don't know anyone.
Well, they're indifferent. It doesn't affect them. And also, what's it got to do with me?
Yes, absolutely. So because of that, our community had to really engage.
Yeah.
So, in WA, we'd been through all this law reform stuff, and here we were having to re-engage with exactly the same arguments that we'd had to engage with before.
Yeah.
To make sure that we had the community come with us.
Yeah.
And understand that our allies are
We're the key.
We're the key.
Yeah.
We're the key to all of this.
Yeah.
And we're actually more important than our community.
Yeah. And those people who are indifferent are really important.
So important.
Yeah. But there was a large percentage like you who did think that they should be voting and decided that it was almost like a protest to not vote. We had to convince
them. And we're like, no, please,
that's
we
not the
need
right
you to
thing
vote.
do.
We need you to vote.
And similarly, I know that there was something that went around on social media saying, because it was a postal vote, I'm going to fill my vote with glitter.
Yes.
Which would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But also that vote then becomes invalid.
That's right.
Exactly.
And so trying to then...
So we're sitting there watching all of that thinking, oh,
please
God,
don't do that,
please
don't do that. Stop
that.
sharing that.
That's right. Exactly.
Do you understand the implications?
Yeah, that's right.
So,
So it was a really scary time, and we were in the city when they made the announcement on the big screen.
Yeah.
and I was actually taking photos.
Yeah.
So I was on the stage, and Alex and Sam and Eric, in fact, were in the crowd down.
Just to reiterate, Eric is the little griffin
Eric
dog.
is the little-
who's with us here
he's that
today.
third baby.
Third baby.
Yeah. So you might actually hear snoring.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was on the stage with the people that were making the announcements, and they did a cross to the statistician, you know, from the Electoral Commission, and he was on screen, and
he was cute.
he was
really happy when he
Yeah.
read that.
he was really happy. And then when they read the stats out, you could see it, the realization just filter through the crowd
Yeah.
that, hang on, if that's the stats, that means it's like 80% support.
We've won.
We've won. And you could see everyone's faces just
What are you doing, mister?
absolutely, like the emotion.
Yeah.
Firstly, the fear,
Yeah.
the absolute terror that it was not going to go in our favour. And then,
And what does that mean?
oh my God, and then the relief, and then that gave way to joy.
Yeah.
You know, and taking those photos was amazing.
Alex just wrapped their arms around me, you know, so, I mean, they shouldn't have to have gone through
No.
that at all.
It should not be happening in our children's
It
lifetime.
shouldn't be.
It is
Yeah.
disgraceful that
Yeah.
this happened in our children's lifetime.
Yeah. So, but to be honest, I didn't actually realise how aware they were of what was going on.
Yeah.
And the tension that they were feeling. Because we've been pretty good at keeping that sort of tension out of the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did. You were on stage, I think, and they just wrapped themselves around
And I got a
me.
photo of that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment for me.
Yes. And then everyone burst into tears. You know, everyone was crying. There was not a dry eye in the whole place.
Yeah.
And they were all like, oh! But it was gorgeous.
Everyone was doing their ugly cry.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
emotional
yeah.
it was.
Yeah, which is very bad for the gay and lesbian community to be ugly crying in public. But
I was going to say that, but I filtered. But it's okay. You're allowed to say that.
but it was truly an amazing. But we should never have had to go through that.
Yeah.
It should never have happened.
And I found myself saying just then that you won.
Yeah.
How awful that you're in a situation
Where you could
where
lose.
it's an us and them,
Yes.
and you can potentially lose.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you know, we hit the anniversary of that, my Facebook is filled with things of, you know, going, okay, well, this rock star's been married 6 times and he's got children with, you know, he's had this affair, and this person was married for 6.5 hours, and this person's, and then this same-sex couple have been in a committed monogamous relationship for the past 32 years, and we're saying that they should not be allowed to marry, and yet this person can what?
You know, and a person in prison who's committed multiple murders, they can get married in prison.
Yeah.
And that was my argument the whole time during this debate. It's like, how is that possible that someone who's been found guilty of murdering multiple people can get married in prison? How? And I can't.
And a same-sex couple that have, you know, upholding members of society.
Oh, well, I've got a few speeding fines, but, you know. And then,
Well, there is that.
That's because she's a shit driver.
Yeah, Emma's aware.
Yeah. Again, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm just keeping very quiet on that.
The hypocrisy of that,
Yeah.
you know, was just not lost
Yeah.
on any of us. You know,
I think it was lost on quite a few people, to be fair.
Yeah. So it was a very, very stressful time, and now I feel like we're living with no stress at all. It's great.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's quite an unusual thing for us to not have stress in our lives.
So
Although
we can
although
find
now we
something.
have a non-binary child who we have to fight
That
for
is,
as well,
yeah.
because forms for non-binary people are not great.
They're getting better.
They're getting better.
They are
Yeah.
getting better.
So they've just recently updated the forms for marriage
Yes.
in Australia.
Yeah.
And the forms have now changed
Yay.
to have non-binary as one of the options for
That's
gender.
awesome.
So, you know, it's slowly happening.
Yeah.
But I think really quite quickly compared to
the initial queer
Yes.
LGBT.
yeah, that's it.
I haven't explained what non-binary is. I don't think we have. So from Alex's point of view, identifying as non-binary means that they do not identify as being male or female.
Mhm.
So they're somewhere, they're off the binary.
Yeah.
So that's how they explain it.
Yeah. But and the
But for other
pronoun,
people, it means
the hardest
different
thing is
things.
the pronouns, because as I said to Alex, look, I've dealt with 50 years of he, she,
Yeah.
and it is so automatic and ingrained. But I think we're getting much
We're getting
better.
better.
And I feel so bad when I stuff up,
Yeah.
because I know how important it is to them. But we're getting much better at the pronouns.
But we did when it first, because I had the most difficulty with it, being an English person.
It's not grammatically correct.
Yeah.
That's right. And it wasn't, and I did have the most difficulty with it. I'm willing to admit that. And I rang Alex's donor dad, who is a history major and very clever human being, and I said, look, I'm having difficulties with grammar. What am I going to do? And he goes, well, Shakespeare did it. Shakespeare did singular they back in the 1400s. So if it's good enough for Shakespeare, I reckon you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, bye. And that put me in my place well and truly.
It's pretty close to going, you know what, you just need to suck it up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as close as it
You know,
is.
that's what I said. I said, I don't want to be at their 21st and for them to have thought that we haven't supported
didn't
them in
support them.
some way.
Yeah.
And rather than us just feel a bit uncomfortable over pronouns, for God's sake. So we were happy to go with it. We didn't know if it was something that was, inverted commas, real, or whether it was a phase, because it's been 2 years.
2 years now.
Yeah. So we were concerned that they were of an age where they weren't able to make a proper determination. But it's been two years, and in the last 2 years, one of the things we've learned is our child
knows themselves. They know
incredibly
themselves.
well. So
and they're very mature. Very
The
mature.
thing is that if it is a phase, so what?
exactly,
Yeah.
that's what I said. Who cares? So it's a phase.
Yeah.
But they know that
They'll know we supported them.
you supported them
regardless.
through that, and
Yeah.
then and you can always come back from a phase.
Yes.
You know, where
yes.
it's really hard to come back from my mums weren't there to support me.
Yeah.
exactly.
And particularly when added pressure for you,
Yeah.
but you identify as GLBTQIA+,
Yes.
in that
yes.
spectrum of letters.
And so you've experienced what it's like to not be accepted.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you've got to step up.
Well, I did actually.
I didn't believe what this one said. Go on,
I
tell
did.
them what you
I did
said.
actually say to Alex, I said, look, it would have been much easier for me if you had just came home gay.
Yeah, 100%.
I can do that.
I can do gay.
That's right.
I know gay.
I know gay. But this trans non-binary thing, cool, we'll deal with that. But gay would have been much easier just telling you. Yeah.
Can we rethink this a little bit?
But they're an amazing human being.
Yeah.
Like really incredibly mature, intelligent.
Mind blowing, really.
Yeah, like sometimes I think they're the parent, to be truthful.
It's a bit like that with my children. I was at an event that I really didn't want to be at recently, and my eldest daughter, who's 16, she texted me and said, "Are you having a good time?" And so I said, "Actually, I'm really not.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be here, but I feel obligated to be here." And with wisdom way beyond her 16 years, she said, she threw it back in my face and she said, a very wise woman once told me that not wanting to be somewhere is a good enough reason to leave. Yes. I believe I may have heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
I'll just get my bag and my keys.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I think we can learn a lot from our kids.
We can, definitely.
So as we wrap up, if there are people who are, they're finding themselves now where they're in a situation where they're, the society isn't with them, or they're finding that the laws aren't, the laws are not necessarily in a place that we want them to be, what advice would you have for them?
To the extent that you can do so safely.
I was going to say it was my first thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you're safe.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Yeah.
So connect with people that are in a similar situation to you that would benefit from those laws being changed or altered or whatever it is. Find like-minded people that are as affected as you are and clutch onto each other. There's more power in more of you than there is in one of you.
Mm-hmm.
So bring people with you. Always be respectful. And
That's right, Eric.
Eric really agrees. Always be respectful.
Yeah.
So always be respectful, but bring people with you who can help you and perhaps have skills that you don't. So if you're not good at public speaking and it requires that, find someone who is and is happy to do it. And within that skill set, so Gay and Lesbian Equality had Damien, who was a brilliant public speaker.
Yeah.
He was absolutely phenomenal. And then we had Rod, who was great at marketing, you know, and designing things and getting things in the paper. And he was a brilliant mind in terms of twisting things around. And, you know, so find people.
So nice skills audit.
Good skills audit. Who can do what and who can do it well, and bring them together.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is find a way to block the negative people that you have no relationship with, that are toxic, and the ones that want to bring you down. Find a way to block them and don't listen to what they've got to say.
That's so much easier said than done.
It is.
Totally, absolutely.
Do you have any suggestions as ways that you managed to do that?
Drink? No. No, absolutely not. I think...
I just want to add, you're both teetotal now.
Yeah.
We
haven't drunk.
We haven't drunk. We stopped
16
drinking when we started doing IVF.
Yeah. And just never went back.
Not that we're anti-drinking.
No.
Just I think that for me, realizing that these people were not significant in my life, that what they were saying was not significant, it was wrong, and that they were doing and saying what they were saying for all the wrong reasons, helped me come to a realization that I didn't have to listen to them, because my upbringing was such that it would be rude not to enter into discussion or listen to what other people have got to say, and that killed me.
Rudeness over your mental health any day.
Exactly. It fucked with my head really badly. Kelly dealt with it so much better than I did, and I had to find a way to block it. And for me, that was realising that it wasn't actually personal. They were just nasty people. They were going to attack anybody they could attack, and I just happened to be in the firing line. So that's really what did it for me. And it seems simple, and but it is hard to do. I won't deny that. But if you can get to that point, then it frees up a good portion of your energy and your mind to deal with what's really important. So.
And I think, Kelly, you said before about the idea of having that media blackout. And now, now we've got social media as well, and everything is clickbait. Everything is media sensationalism, and it's just...
to this day, I don't read comments in normal media. I just don't. On Facebook, if there's an article about trans issues, I do not read the comments.
Because they're not based in fact. They're emotive, they're emotional. And they're very often wrong
and just cruel
and cruel.
But saying that, so you dealt with it like that.
Yes.
I dealt with it from an educative point of view. So I am inherently a glass half full person. And I trust people until they prove otherwise. And so that's how I make my way in the world. So when I came across someone, and it happened many, many times, who was perhaps a very right-wing Christian who had very extreme beliefs that were so far removed from my own, I actually saw that as a challenge to educate them, right? And I didn't back away from people like that. I didn't block them.
We dealt with it very different ways.
I engaged with those people. And
Sam went to her office and cried.
Exactly. So we did it very differently. So I engaged with those people, and quite often I had people who would come back to me and end up being a mouthpiece in support of GLBTI because of the way I'd engage with them.
There's some key people in our lives now that were like that. Were combative originally, but are now firm allies.
So and even if just two people you can make that change for.
But I think it's knowing the difference between people who are open-minded enough that they're going to actually be able to engage. And
there are some people that I just give, zero fucks, and I am not engaging with them. Even at all, not even at all. I'm not even looking at you. Because I know that you're a lost cause.
And the hard part is that educating people.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And when you look at Alex, who's potentially in a situation now where for the rest of their life they're going to be educating people about what it means to be non-binary and the importance of using the correct pronouns, and that you know, if you make a mistake, correct it and just keep going. You know, so but all of those things, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting,
and it's so much pressure to put on people.
It is.
That, and that's, I don't know, is it a role that you really want?
The whole pronoun thing is actually really easy. Like I said to Alex, you know, how do we deal with this, honey? How do we, like, in a group where you don't know who's who? And they said, well, you just ask.
Yeah.
What do you? I'm Alex. They, them. What are your pronouns?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they put it like that, it's like, well, yeah, that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. And then it's inclusive of everybody.
Yeah.
You know. So I just think it needs all of us to just shuffle a little bit more to the side, you know, and open up a little bit more about the fact that we're not all the same.
I know a lot of people have said to me, oh, bloody hell, all this stuff, it's so new and they never existed in my time. And I'm like, well, actually they did. It's just that now they have a name for it, which means people can be acknowledged and included.
Yeah. Oh, look, they probably had names back then as well. They just weren't quite as you know, and sometimes those names resulted in straitjackets and things like that.
Exactly.
So well, it was only the 80s that I think that homosexuality was removed
from the psychological.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, an old friend of ours used to have a psychology book that had it in it, and you could, you know, it was, you know, open it up and read it and go, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not that long ago that the different kinds of medication, different kinds of treatments that we're using to cure people of homosexuality. So, you know, but these things have been going around, and you look back at family history books and that kind of thing, and there's the spinster aunt that was living with her good friend. And, you know, those kinds of things.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
It's always just been a different name or no name.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
invisible.
Yeah. Families don't talk about it.
So there's still lots to do, and people do say, oh my God, haven't you got marriage now? What more do you want? But actually,
equality.
Yeah. I mean,
full stop.
We still, and you know, it's a controversial thing to say. We still have the religious exemptions to deal with, which I personally think should be removed.
Yeah. Education in schools.
You can't have proper equality until. But then in other countries, like Scotland, has just approved or passed a mandate where schools now have to teach LGBTQI plus history and information, and are supplying the texts and things like that. So I mean, that's
awesome. Interesting to read those texts.
Wouldn't it?
You know,
Totally.
It would.
So you know, we are progressing, but you know,
the part of England that I come from, it's very reserved. I'm not sure that people necessarily talk about LGBTQIA issues very much. And then we went on a family holiday to San Francisco. And I took my 3 kids and my parents on a tour of San Francisco, which was just all about basically the gay history that was there. And it was fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's a fascinating history.
It was, but you know what was even more fascinating? Watching the faces of the people on the bus who didn't know what tour they were going on. I thought they were just going on a big bus tour.
That's so funny.
It was hilarious. It was so good.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, any last final thoughts?
No, I've just exhausted my thoughts, actually, I think, for the next year.
Yeah. Brush your teeth before bed, and always wear clean underwear when you go out. That's what my nana told me.
Yeah, because in case of an emergency and you shit yourself anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Very valid point.
Yeah, that's it. No, we make it up as we go along.
Perfect.
Basically.
Yeah. But, you know, be kind.
That's it. When you can be anything in the world, choose to be kind.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Because everyone has a story. Like I, you know, say to Alex, when they have issues with school or with people or whatever. So, honey, everyone's got a backstory.
Yeah.
Everybody has got a backstory, and you don't know what it is.
Some people wear it on their sleeves, and a lot of people keep it hidden.
So just be kind.
Thank you both, and the doggos. Thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Sorry that Kelly talks so much.
Oh, yeah, I know, honestly. Put us both in the same room together. So the episode did go a little bit longer than normal, but I really appreciate everything that you shared. And I think that we did actually go through the points of the story that I was hoping that we did. So, winning all round.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of A Hidden World of Women, a podcast brought to you by Women's Health and Wellbeing Services. For more information on the services we offer, head to whws.org.au or Women's Health and Wellbeing Services on YouTube and social media. Looking forward to the next episode where we uncover the hidden world of women.